Welcome to the Minotaur's Maze. My guest today is the founder of For Networking, which is the largest joined-up business network in the UK, 4 times best-selling business author on Amazon, and the UK's #1 motivational speaker, Mr. Brad Burton. Brad, thank you for being here and welcome.
Look, thank you, friend. 2 things that are wrong with that intro. Number 1, the largest joined-up network in the UK was before COVID came along, right? And number 2, you said I'm the UK's #1 motivational speaker, the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. There's a fundamental difference, mate, and I'll explain to that while later.
Brilliant. I mean, well, thank you for that clarification. So, for those that don't know who you are, and I'm going to ask you to do this in the shortest time possible because I've read your story. I've even seen your brief bio, and there's just so much in there. So this could go quite on for some time. But for those people that don't know who you are, what is the quick introduction to yourself and what you do?
So it depends which version of Brad you want. Do you want the guy who dad left when he was 6 months old, who left school with no qualifications, who got shot at when he was 21, who's been addicted to drugs twice, who's done 4 years on benefits, who delivered pizzas at 31? Or do we want the UK's #1 motivational business speaker, the 4-time best-selling author, the founder of Network Central and For Networking? 2 sides of the same coin, Zulfaqar. And it's like, there's 2 versions of each of us. And if I go back far enough to your life, I'll find something questionable. And I think that this is what we end up doing as human beings, is that there's 2 versions of us, and it all depends as to which version we field on a day as to where our lives end up. And more recently, I've been fielding the positive version.
Brilliant. So the theme of this podcast is obviously based on the Greek myth Theseus and the Minotaur. So that was a story which stuck with me at school, and now I use it as a metaphor. So the Minotaur was a half bull, half-man beast in the middle of the maze. Well, life is a maze. The mind is a maze. We have internal minotaurs, which are fears, doubts, and insecurities. And then we have external minotaurs, which are the challenges and obstacles in life. So, already you've mentioned quite a few things there, which will have been both your internal minotaur and your external minotaur. But out of all that, which would you say is probably your biggest internal minotaur that you had to overcome?
Self-doubt, and I think everyone goes through it. Everyone goes through self-doubt, and I know some pop stars, I know some high-level people, and they've all dealt with self-doubt. Self-doubt is a thing as human beings, and I think what we end up doing is internalising it, thinking it's just us that have got self-doubt. And actually, like I say, I've spoken to people at the highest level. Self-doubt is a thing, and at the other side of that self-doubt is where you need to get to.
And where do you think that self-doubt comes from? I know we've all got individual stories, but it just seems like everybody's obviously got it. Is it something that's trained into us? Do we not do enough when we're children? Or where do you specifically think that self-doubt comes from?
So a fish will only grow as big as its fish tank. You go and put a shark in a fish tank, it'll grow 8 inches. Same shark in the sea, 8 foot. And I think that's where it starts. I think as I'm from Salford, Manchester. From Salford, Manchester, and actually somewhere along the way, it's like, the best I could have ever expected to get in my life and career is working, selling cars at Ford. So I think first and foremost, it's about this: you'll never outperform your self-image. So I believe that self-doubt is kind of formed through self-image. And more recently, in the last 10, 15 years, I've started unpicking that self-image and kind of reproducing it, almost like my Lego. I've got Lego here, right? I'm a Lego man. But it's almost like Lego. And actually, you've got this wonderful thing. And actually, can it be done better? And the only way that you're going to do things better is by unpicking it and taking it all off. And most people don't do that. Most people end up just putting stuff on top of their previous build. And actually, what you've got to do in your life is sometimes you've got to deconstruct to rebuild, which is exactly what I've done.
Brilliant. I absolutely love that, because it is a process that I've gone through myself in a way now. Looking at your story, it's almost, the complete opposite of mine where, if I read correctly, you were the class clown, you didn't do well in school or you left. Whereas me, I was the opposite. I was the geek, the intelligent guy, the one that did well. But I still came out of that system with a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-belief. And it's just interesting to me that despite having the 2 different kind of upbringings, you can still arrive at the same area. So, like, what would you say, what do we need to do different to make sure this doesn't happen for future generations? Does it start at school? Does it start outside of school? Like, where does it start to change this?
I think the way that you learn how to not get punched in the mouth is by getting punched in the mouth. And actually, not everyone can be Elon Musk. And I think that what we need to recognize is that we can be a better version of ourselves. And that is what I would be asking anyone. What specifically have you got to do in the short term so that your medium and long-term version of you is a better version of yourself? And you go, what are you on about? So, for instance, drinking water, going to the gym, walking more. I've switched the news off. I'm now 180 days in. It's more than that, actually, cracker. Anyway, since Christmas Eve, I've stopped watching the news. So you are what you see, what you hear, what you eat, and just your environment, products of your environment. So I'd ask yourself the question right now, if you're tuned into this, is your environment, what you see, hear, and feel, is it a positive environment? If it's not, what needs to change to make it so? Because I'll tell you something, you cannot build as an individual whilst you are digesting rubbish. And like I say, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, whatever. So I would suggest that it all starts with you. It all starts with belief that you can make a change or you want to make a change. Often in life is why we get stuck. We can't go left and right at the same time. That's why we end up stuck. And what ends up happening is people have their sail up, and they have their anchor down and they go round and round and round and round and never make any progress. So at some point, you've got to recognise either one, pull your sail down, or two, pull your anchor up. But where you're going wrong is being stuck. So I believe that it starts at home. I believe that that's where it starts, belief. My boy, who's now 18, it was the first Burton to go to university. I just find that fascinating. I've got no hunger for further education. That's not my route I've took. But for him, he wants to be a geologist. So it's about really finding who you are and where you want to get to and the steps that you need to make to get to where you need to be.
Brilliant. So, I mean, again, I love all of that. So, obviously, you said your biggest Minotaur was self-doubt. What practical steps then did you take to, overcome that? Like, what were the first things that you kind of did in a practical sense? Obviously,
great question. So, I'm 49 now, 49, and I didn't kind of understand the process that I was taking myself through until probably about 5 years ago, maybe. So even though I was changing, I never consciously changed. I never consciously said, I'm going to be a better version of me. And I do that right now. I wake up every single morning, and if I'm feeling like shit, what I will do is recognize that I feel like shit. And what I will do is I will go and get some distance from that. I'll either not work, go meditate, or just think. There was a time, and I go back down to it, with practical things that I do, is I'll drive quietly. Allow my brain to process. You think about a pint pot fill up, you can't put anything more in it. So if you've been watching about COVID and wars going on, oh my God, and there's been mass shootings, how are you you processing that? So what you've got to do is recognize this. I would rather be uninformed and happy than informed and miserable. Because your brain is your biggest chance of success. It's your biggest chance of failure. So you've got to make damn certain that what you're doing right now is what you want to do, not what society, not what the world tells you need to be thinking about and need to be processing.
Brilliant. Absolutely. I love that. So I know you mentioned COVID there. So I know that caused a lot of problems for many different people, both internally in the mindset, but also in business. So I think, your personal business went from, was it 1.8 million to zero because of COVID?
Yeah, it's true story, yeah. Overnight.
So, just want to tell us that story quickly, and then what you've done since then to build it back up.
Of course. So I started my business back in 2006, and so if you think about that, it was 14 years. My networking business, one group, two groups, running 5,000 business networking meetings up and down the land. If I set off from Somerset right now, every single junction, M5, M6, all the way to Batley, would have had a 4 networking meeting. Boris Johnson said 700 days ago, please stay at home. And if I said to you, Z, how long do you think that this was going to last when he said stay at home? How long do you think before the pandemic was going to go away? It
started off, 2 weeks to shut it down or whatnot, and then it just went for 2-3 years.
So I've asked people this, and the average answer that I get is 4 months, 6 months, 3 months. Somebody says a year, whatever. But in average, I've asked hundreds, if not thousands of people in the last 6 months that question, and the answer comes back 4 months. So we prepared for a 6-month battle. And I was there and like, yeah, we're going to do this. And I'm getting everyone fired up and bradded up. And then 7 months comes and all of a sudden people are looking for me for answers and I don't have any anymore. 8 months, 9 months, 10 months.
Wow.
And I said before that everyone's been affected mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. Everyone. And, I had a burnout a couple of times over the last couple of years. So my business, we had to adapt. And I always ask this question, what does it make possible? And it made possible that we take the network for networking, we take it online. And we run probably 2,000 meetings last year, 3,000 the previous year. It's a strange old world right now, if I'm honest. And I've always prided myself in terms of being definitive in my approach and actually resolute. And, if we're at sea, we're in a raft, me and you, I'm saying, Zulfaqar, listen, we're going that way. I know land's there. Do you know? Yeah, I know. Right or wrong? No. But actually, if we stay here, we're fucking dying. So actually, what we've ended up doing is I've ended up, moving forward. But let's just be quite clear here. Any of these things that we're dealing with as a country right now, and this is the other thing to understand, whether it was Brexit, heavyweight, pandemic, heavyweight, vaccine rollout, heavyweight, financial crisis, heavyweight, war, heavyweight, food cost, heavyweight, fuel cost, heavyweight. Any one of them would have been a big deal for this country and for the business owners, and obviously you can throw on top of that terrible leadership. So right now, we've got a country that is kind of at sea, that don't know which way to go. And any leader doesn't know either. They're just human beings. We look towards leaders and think, you know what, this individual is a leader. You look at some military guy with hats on and medals. He must be... Nah, they're just human beings like you and I. The difference is they've got medals. They're conformed. And we're in a danger zone right now, not only as a country, but as a global community.
Yes.
This is heading towards some unprecedented turmoil for the country, and actually for the world. And I think there's a bigger issue here than business, if I'm honest. I think this is potentially a societal breakdown of everything that we know. You've had things like the medieval ages, the dark ages, the iron ages, and we're heading to a new age, whether that's a digital age. That was the last season, whether it's the digital age. I also think that there's a battle going on for the heart of this globe. And that battle isn't good versus evil. It's technology versus nature. And I think we are heading to a really interesting time. I mean, I'm quite spiritual in my approach to life. It never used to be like this, but I'm looking at the world now and I'm thinking, this is out of kilter. This is, you can't have an opinion anymore.
Yes.
So what we end up doing is, so if you think about me, I say about people, what they need to be is them, be you. But when you're not being you to conform and fit in, then all of a sudden you're losing a bit of yourself. And if you're losing a piece of yourself and you're losing a piece of yourself, we end up with this almost osmosis about this world that no longer, it's odd, strange times right now. And I fear for the globe. I think from a financial perspective, the debt globally is unserviceable. So something's going to happen. And I don't know what that thing is, but one of the things that I recognised is that you have to rely on self. It'd be lovely to think that there's a cavalry coming and the governments are going to sort everything out. We could have had a situation, we didn't, but we could have had a situation where scimitar tanks were going around. There's food problems and stuff. And my wife laughs at me and thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist. You are until, of course, that's the case. And so I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know, and the kind of takeaway for your audience here, is rely on self. Make certain, and this is go back onto this, that your brain is not being bombarded with stuff that weakens your resolve, because that doesn't help you, it doesn't help your family, it doesn't help your business, it doesn't help the way forward. So my business is nowhere near the size that it once was. Fact. But I'm good with that, because I am. Me as an individual, I'm strong still mentally. Where people end up getting messed up in their life, and then we talk about the Minotaur thing, which is they try to go back to a time and a place that no longer exists. And that is where it becomes problematic. I ain't going backwards, I'm going forwards, whatever forward look like. And I ain't going to starve to death, right? I might not be wiping my ass with £50 notes and doing donuts in my Lamborghini anymore. However, mountaineers don't stay at the top of mountains. They don't stay at the bottom either. It's always in flux. And as soon as you recognise that this world is in flux, life becomes easier.
Brilliant. I mean, there's just so much in there, which is just wow. There's so much to pick apart, and I don't know where to start. But I suppose a lot of what I got from there is, there's been a self-esteem crisis for some time now, and I've been part of that self-esteem generation as well, the millennials. So for whatever reason, we've come out with, we might be academically strong, we might not have been academically strong, but we've come out with lacking self-esteem. And this is why I think your message right there is important in building the self, because ultimately self-esteem is the most important thing there. If you've got that, you're going to survive what's to come. If you haven't got it, even if you get a modicum of success, eventually you're going to fall apart. So like, obviously we don't know where the future is heading, and we can't rely on the leaders anymore. I mean, those of us, we didn't rely on the leaders in the first place. So you were
can I just say something? I conformed every step of the way. I conformed every step of the way, and I followed the rules, not religiously. And apart from the fact that I did 2 dog walks a day, rock and roll lifestyle. Anyway, but the reality is with this thing, right, is all the girls love a bad boys, eh? But the reality is with this thing is that I wrote something, I think it was December, I said the middle class revolt is coming. I wrote something that said the middle class revolt is coming. You go and push me one more time and that's it. Done. Mm-hmm. And actually that's when all the restrictions just fell away. But if they'd have pushed another time, that would have been me. I would have been civil disobedience, me. Yeah, having conformed. And I believe that that's what was going on. And actually, you look at what happened now, retrospectively, look, a mistake is only a mistake after the event. No one, including me, wakes up and says, I'm going to go and fuck up today. Right? Occasionally I do. And we all do. So I don't think we can necessarily beat up the leaders for acting on the decisions and information they had. No 2 ways about it. However, I do believe that maybe, just maybe, that we're entitled to, as human beings, to make our own decisions about what we put in our body and what we do. And the travel bans right now are ridiculous. Like, this is somebody who's got his jabs and his booster. And I just think, are you crazy? Crackers.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, again, once, I completely relate to that. And, for me, it felt like the last 2-3 years, yes, obviously there was a pandemic and there was uncertainty, but at some point it started to feel like this is being used as a social experiment. Like, how far can we push people? How far can we do things and get away with it? So yeah, maybe they didn't handle the pandemic as well because they just weren't sure of what to do. But then, when you look at some of the other things that were happening and some of them, the blatant lies that were out there and the hypocrisy and the double standards, which obviously is still happening now, which I don't follow the news anymore. Like you, I've just stopped, because last year, like, I was, every day something's popping off these days, and it's just not, you can't move forward, you can't move backward because everything becomes uncertain. And then if you're uncertain about out there and then you internalize it, that's when the self-doubt comes back in.
So I will give you an example of this. You imagine that you're a boxer and you come back after getting pounded for a round, and I sit you down and say, hey, listen, Zulfaqar, listen, this guy's tasty, mate. I don't think we're going to, I don't think you're going to be able to, beat him. Ding, ding, seconds out. You ain't going to go back there and I think you can do it. However, if you sat down and said, listen, you have trained too hard for this. Yeah, you've had a bad round. I don't care about that. You don't care about that. What happens now is you go stick to the game plan and you make this happen. See, you get out there. You've trained too hard. We ain't giving up. You're doing this for your family. You get out there. Ding, ding. You got more chance of winning the second because of that. Now, that is self-talk that's going on here. Oh, yeah, they got fuel crisis and they can't afford. Whoa, that's you done. You're out of the game. Your ref stoppage waved off. So you got to get yourself back in.
Brilliant. And the first step to that is, stop watching the news. And, even though if you stop watching the news, the other problem now is social media. And I know you're passionate about this because I've seen some of your posts. So social media is a gift as much as it is a curse if you don't protect yourself. Now, I've read some of your posts, but do you want to highlight some of the worries that you have with social media, and then we'll move on to the benefits of how you use social media?
So if you think about from a social media perspective, you can get some kid who understands Facebook advertising, who could get himself coming out of a frigging Lamborghini rental and with sunglasses and snapback. Hey, you're going to learn the secrets, my 6-figure blueprint. Da, 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 da. And people go, oh my God, this is amazing. He's got a car. Oh, looks good. Look, bro, we're getting out of a helicopter. And actually, you've got people who've got real experience that have been overlooked because they can't compete in this world. They can't get themselves forward. When I first started on this whole business stuff, I was radical in the space, like genuinely, like rock and roll, radical. Everyone, oh, my Brad, have you seen he's so edgy. Now, I'm not edgy. I am toy. So what happens now, the only way that I can get attention on social media is by jumping on a frigging cheese grater, right? And saying motivational quotes whilst I do it. Dressed up in a tutu. And this world has gone crazy. There's some stuff popping off today at LinkedIn with somebody taking a photograph of somebody who's going to kill themselves and whatever off a finger, but they saved them. And it's like, oh, come on. Giving people money who are homeless, but videoing them, fuck off. The world's gone crazy. So actually, what they're doing is they're like fishing. light fishing, and then once again, it doesn't allow normality to break through. The only thing that cuts through nowadays is jumping on a cheese grater. So it's getting dangerous. It's getting dangerous. Fights going on, on my Twitter, punch-ups in nightclubs. Everyone's got their phones out. Police officers getting kicked in, phones out. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. What is going? This is like Black Mirror. Mm-hmm. So now, you're in this situation where if you're a normal person, you're feeling like you've been pushed out of the world because you're not validated. And you look at this whole thing, you're going to get 10 likes, you want 100, you get 100, you want 1,000, you want 1,000, you want 10,000, you want 10,000, you want half.
Never enough, yeah.
It never ends. So you end up in this horrible place where it's never enough in life. And I think that's the problem that we've got. I think that's a lot of self-esteem comes from there. Yes. Girls having to put filters on in order to take photographs, and their face looks like it's been frigging drawn on by Disney. And I'm scratching my head going, you don't look like that. So what is that doing to psyche? What's that doing to people's mental health? And then you start twinning that with everything that I talked about before: war, Brexit, division. It is a absolute tinder pot of social erosion. And I love social media. I remember the good old days, 2009, 10, 11. It was fun. It was social. Mm-hmm. Social media isn't social anymore. No. It's a vehicle to not manipulate, to get business or to whatever. It's not social. You don't go on to go meet friends anymore. It's a strange old time, mate. Listen, maybe the two generations before me, my granddad, they said the same about frigging the Beatles. Oh, the Beatles, the devil worshippers, and maybe that's what goes on, and generations do this. But I consider myself to be a little bit woe, a little bit way, a little bit of a man of the world. And if you used to have a Venn diagram, you'd see me as that working class lad, and then the business owner, and I'm in the middle with all that as to what I am. And I'm not, like I say, I'm not a prude to any of this. But when my daughter, the first thing she does when she wakes up is go on Roblox videos. And actually, I watch these Roblox videos and I see what's going on.
Yes,
they're using amazing edits to AMSR, whatever it's called, the audio, and just cut in and export. It's just stimuli. And then you look on TikTok, somebody just fell over. Somebody just cars just 6 seconds of just this. And the world has been it's down to 6 seconds. There's no longevity in it. People don't talk. Crazy.
No, once again, I relate to all of that. And obviously, I've got 2 young children as well, so I do worry about them and the world they're growing up in. It's just not sustainable. You can't have this amount of information overload, a distorted view of reality, and then trying to emulate it and feel good about it. It's just not going to happen.
Years ago, World War II, if I were to know about World War II in 1978 as a 5-year-old, I'd go speak to my granddad. He would sit there and he would tell us about the World War II and the tanks and what he did, and it'd be really exciting. Right now, if I want to know about World War II, I'm going on Google, and it's going to tell me about World War II. So granddad doesn't have that conversation anymore that he once had, right? He's got no story. Nobody wants to hear granddad's story. Everyone wants to speak to Alexa, and he gives us a 7-second TikTok about World War II. And I think that's the danger, is everyone's getting isolated. In fact, we've all become islands. That's your problem. Yes. Everyone's become an island. And actually, everyone's become an island and waiting for somebody to come and rescue them. And guess what? 2 years on, people are still waiting.
No, nobody's coming. So nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to save you. So you've got to save yourself. Now, obviously, with social media, that is some of the issues in terms of self-esteem. But even in a business context, we are going to move on to the benefits of it. But take myself for an example. I did well in school. I did well in university. I did well in employment. I became a lawyer, and then I moved into the business world, and it just was so hard. It was so difficult. I've always done well, and now I'm facing this situation where I'm just not doing well. And then I'm seeing people online who are just, it seems like they're absolutely smashing it. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I wasn't smart. Maybe I wasn't intelligent. What's wrong with me? And that comparison side will kill you.
So let me just put something to you. And I want you to be really honest now. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I want you to be 100% honest. Is your life perfect?
No.
Is your business perfect?
No.
If you go on social media, Instagram, all you'll see is perfect lives and perfect businesses. Mate, it is bullshit. And this is the problem, is you are what and this is, if anyone triggers me for whatever reason, I just unfollow them or block them. Might be no problem there, but you can't afford this because let's be quite clear: the business model of social medias is to get you aspirational, looking at things. They don't care about your mental health. Their input is that you stay on that site. They're not bothered that might be having far-reaching implications to your life and your family. So when I ask that question, is your life perfect? Is your business perfect? And the answer is no. Everyone says no. But, if you look on Instagram,
social media,
all you'll see, perfect lives, perfect business.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's talk about the positives now of social media. So, you've gone through this pandemic and we don't know where the future is heading, but you've reinvented yourself and you've come online. So what have been some of the positive steps thanks to social media that you've taken?
What's been lovely about this, it's been the shedding of people. And what I mean by that is you can't hold on to everyone. And I recognise, and I'm a realist about this, in that, everyone's been going through their own challenges. Everyone's been on their own island. So there's a few people that have kind of done some dirties on me for the last couple of years, which actually, it's one of those ones you look at it and think, I don't understand why that's happened. However, I think that's been a good thing. I think it's allowed us to shed a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily working about the old life. And that's whether it was ostentatiousness, whether it was being flashed, just these things that, I remember when the pandemic first started and I was out there collecting wood when I do my dog walks once a day. And, I would collect wood and I would put it in a bag and people were on socials going, are you crazy? Okay. I'm thinking, well, just save myself £4 on wood there whilst I'm walking. And I think that people, just because something was the way it once was, it doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. So positives. The positives, as the technology allowed us to do things like this. The technology allowed us to stay in contact with people. My mum, I dropped off a frigging iPad mini with a crack on it and a MiFi, so I could FaceTime my mum. It's just like that technology was great. But I do believe that it is time for something new. And I think that the fact that Facebook changed the name to Meta kind of indicates that the writing's on the wall there, that they are moving away from that because it's so tarnished as a brand.
So where do you see them going? Or where do you see the future going then? Obviously, with these kind of changes coming in.
Listen, this is the problem that you've got. I'll share something else. Apple, Starbucks, Amazon, Facebook, these big dominant, big 5 or 10 or whatever. And then you look at what happened over the pandemic in that my target audience was micro to small businesses, thousands of members that I built up over 14 years. Them being told that you can't go out and you can't earn money, after about 3 months, they're in trouble. 4 months, it's like a bell curve of it increasing of finances, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, 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 boom. So my entire market's been wiped out. Now, there's direct correlations globally to that. There's micro and small businesses are gone. Now, micro and small businesses are now rebuilding slowly. But that swathe of small business has gone. Same goes for the high street. Swathe, small business. Same goes for internet providers, small. Mate, I've got no idea, but, I look at the trajectory and it doesn't look good.
Yeah, so...
And I think, we're all guilty. I think we're all guilty every single time. We go, ooh, one step click, one click. Oh, that'll arrive in 3 hours' time. Brilliant. And then we start bitching that the high street's going.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
We're all guilty.
We are. I mean, technology, it makes things easier, but by making things easier, you're making things hard on obviously.
Well, short term, it makes things easier. I think medium and long term, I think it's going to create a big problem.
So what are you doing with your specific business? Obviously, you don't know where we're headed, but what are you specifically doing yourself, both in practical terms? So I've
had to, if I give you a hot rock, how long would you hold on to it for? You'd let go of it. I've had to let go of a lot of stuff. I've had to let go of that world that it once existed isn't there anymore. Okay, so now I have to rebuild differently. And my life was like a game of Jenga. I had to kind of rebuild, and I'm rebuilding slowly. And a big wobbly tower of success, clearly. Now, actually, this black swan of an event, that's the only thing that could have ever taken it out, because mine was beautifully set up that if you lost one cluster here, it didn't make no difference because osmosis would have gone in. So I'm looking at things differently now, and I'm doing a lot more speaking. I'm going into a lot of organisations and helping them with culture, because that's the bit that's being lost.
Yes,
culture's being lost. Work from home, fucking great for the first 3 months, and then all of a sudden, You know, you ain't getting on a bus anymore. You ain't traveling in your car. You just stood there all day long. And you as human beings are being eroded. Your ability, as romantic as it is, work from home, woo-hoo, short term, great. Medium and long term, problematic. So I'm going into a lot of organisations and helping them recover the culture. Because actually, without your culture, your organisation will, at some point, fold.
I love that. So can you give us some examples? Like, what are you doing to help them improve their culture? Or what for business listening to this? What can they do?
So I'm going into businesses and I'm asking them a question. What's really going on? Right? What's the thing that you don't want to tell your boss? What's the thing that you don't want to tell your employees? Right? We all know that you want to work from home because you can't be asked. And it's not that you can't be asked, it's that you want to save money. And I get it. I wouldn't want to be on a frigging commute for 45 minutes at £2 a litre either. I get it. So there's all these conversations that are not being had. The employer wants you back in because they want more efficiency. But not only that, and I'll tell you, I, as Brad Burton, the guy who owns his own business, I want you back in because I worry about your mental health. So if we can have this conversation, the one that nobody wants to have, and I can facilitate that, then all of a sudden this is quite good because no one's doing this because everyone's scared of having that conversation. Everyone's scared of having it. And the problem is it's going to create bigger problems if we don't have this. So that's what I do. I go a series of exercises that I do. It's like a workshop that I go into organisations, and you get them all tuned in and get them all back on, realigned with not only the country, the company's vision and goals, because that's where companies go wrong. Yeah, we're going to do this, and you know, great. What about your staff? They don't give it monkeys that you make £10 million. It's irrelevant to them, right? What's in it for them? And that's why we have this conversation, and that's what I do. And I get, at the end of it, and I've never failed, at the end of it, and I think that's because I can straddle these two spheres. You know, pretty unique guy, if I'm honest. You know, and it's only when I start looking at myself, I go, yeah, I'm pretty unique. But yeah, that's what I do. I bring teams back together and get that culture back and actually find out what people really want. Because actually, let's be honest here, you know, sat at home with Stolford summer fruits pressed for the first 3 months was amazing. Less exciting now. And,
you know, this is going to be definitely valuable for a lot of people because, you know, if I remember reading correctly a few weeks ago, so it looks like the UK has got the biggest percentage of people that don't want to come back into the office. So, you know, they want to work from home, or if they can't get the job they want, they'll either find another one or they'll start their own thing because of the ease in which you can start a business today with social media. So, you know, the point of view for those that want to work from home is, you know, they get more flexibility. So now they've got more time to spend with their family. Yes, they're saving money as well, but they've got time to do other things. So what kind of things can businesses do to basically get them back on, get them back into the office?
So here's the thing. Right, I've been self-employed for 17 years. 17 years self-employed. These people, when they joined, they didn't know there was going to be self-employees. They had no idea. So, you know, they can look at the circumstances now and actually be really honest with themselves. And what I do, and practical things that we do, is we go in there and we get that, bring them together. We bring them together. Not just I've got my boxer shorts on. See you later, Steve. Let's have a coffee morning. Ooh, look at us all being coffee lights, just like being in the office. Bullshit, right? What we do is we bring them together and actually get them talking and get them thinking. And you know, what's great about work from home? What's not so good? Because there's going to be something on that side.
Yes.
It's not all one way. And then when you start looking at that and saying, look, is there a compromise that works for the organisation, works for you, but also works for your mental health? Because I meet people all day long, and I'll tell you the other thing is, I think people have been drowning with gold bars. I think they've been drowning, holding on to gold bars, and at some point they're going to get so tired, they've either got to let go of the gold bars or let go of themselves. And I'm seeing it, and this is not like me, you know, I'm selling some course. I am seeing it on a national level, at the highest level, at the lowest level, at all levels, that this country is in flux. And we are not helping those people right now with this wokeism about work from home. We're not helping them. And this isn't me. I've never been a tyrant. When it comes to work, my guys, I'm not asked. I genuinely, they come in the office and they you know, they fall asleep under the desk if they want to because they've had a busy weekend. I'm good with that, as long as the job gets done. And I think that this is the other thing about it is that, you know, I never padded the time out because I know what it's like. Just because I was working in an office all day for 8 hours a day didn't mean I was working for 8 hours a day. You're human.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no point in pretending, we need to ban Sky Sports in the office. Why? They'll just use the phone on the toilet. So what I do as that guy I'd have like a nice working environment. It was cool. You could come and go. I wasn't bothered as long as the job got done, as long as the goals got scored. I wasn't bothered.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, my approach to business and life is fundamentally different to most.
It is.
So without framework and rules, you're in danger zone here. You're in real danger zone. And that's what we end up doing. We end up having that honest, straight conversation.
Brilliant. And so, so some of the business that you're working with, then, are they reaching a compromise? Like, what are some of the practical things that they are doing? Is it work from home sometimes, work in the office other times? Like, what is the, what you see?
So when you start doing that, what's great about working from home? What's not so great from working home? They let them make their own decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Not me. Let you make your own decisions. Because otherwise, if we don't have this straight conversation, everyone's just pretending. How's things? Yeah. Yeah. And by having this conversation, people go, actually, you're right. It has been affecting my mental health. It has been affecting how I feel about the world and my job and home. And actually, okay, yeah, maybe I'll come in once a week or we have a meeting once a fortnight, whatever. But changing this status quo as opposed to just accepting it. And that's where we're going wrong as a globe right now. We're just accepting the majority vote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that, once again, is rooted in the lack of self-esteem. Now, before we move on from this work from home kind of thing, like, everybody thinks, or most people that are wanting to work from home think that, it's all in their favor and, they're going to get to work from home. If they don't, they'll find another job. But what I see potentially happening is if businesses, UK businesses, start to create, platforms where they can be completely remote and completely online, why then would you pick somebody from a first world country and pay them triple the salary when you can find the same from a third world country?
Mate!
Working from home, they're gonna be like, well, nobody's gonna employ them anymore because they can get somebody from the sides of the world for a fraction of the cost.
Mate, I never even seen that. Jesus Christ, mate! I've got goosebumps. Look at that. You got me.
Wow.
You got me. Oh my God. See that? Look, I've got absolute goosebumps.
Wow. Okay. Brilliant.
That's mental. So I look at this and you're right. And you remember I said something's not quite right. And that what you just said then. You are signing your own P45.
Yeah.
You're signing your own P45. Short term, great. Medium and long term, guys, not great news because of the economic climate. We're going to have to let you go. And the next thing, as you say, boom, different country, 3 times cheaper, 3 times employees, same wage, no shit, no HR.
Yeah. So, it's crazy times. So, like,
That's blown my head off.
Off. Brilliant. I mean, so what advice then would you give to somebody who's, maybe, let's not look at the entitled people. Obviously, there are people entitled, but those that were genuinely struggling and miserable at work because of the lifestyle, the long commutes, the job that wasn't great, not being able to see the family time, family, not being able to go to the gym or do anything else. Like, and now they've experienced work from home and it's transformed their life, right? What advice would you give to them? Like, what should they, be doing? Not because they're entitled, but because they want the best.
No, listen, I get it. I walked out of that book there, Get Off Your Ass. I wrote that in 2006, 2007. And that was my story. I told my employer to shove his job up his ass on December the 16th, 2004. Walked out of a job, no savings, 25 grand in debt, newborn boy, baby Ben, wife that was furious with my decision, and I said I'm going to go start a business off. If I had not started that business off, I wouldn't have written 4 books, wouldn't have become a motivational speaker, wouldn't blah, 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 blah. We wouldn't be talking now. Mm-hmm. So I walked and I give it like 100% like misguided self-belief. And that's what I'd say to people. Get that book, Get Off Your Ass. You don't even have to pay for it. Go and Google Get Off Your Ass PDF, even though you should pay for it. There's a pirate site of it on there. So I'm saving you money. Amazon would be great. But actually, if you want to snide it, you can either go on Spotify, it's me, audio book, or getoffyourass.pdf. You'll find the snide version of it completely free. There you go. Read that, because that's the Bible of what it's like to start a business off. That's what it's really like to start a business off. Going to the Coinstar machine with a bag of 2s and 1s, right? Not having enough money to put petrol in. Parking your car on one near the wall because you've got rust on one wing. You don't want the client to see it. Oh, that's the reality of what it's like. And I captured that in that book. And it was like, I'm so glad I did, because it's like a beacon for everyone to understand what you're really going to go through. Not the business plan bullshit that you're told. Oh, yeah, you need to have vertical markets and all that. It's bollocks. You might as well have a foreword by J.K. Rowling to work of fiction, right? So what you need to recognise is when you first start, I'm a managing director. No, you're not. You're a market trader. You need to buy something for 50 pence and sell it for £1. do that, repeat. But where people go wrong is they've been watching this, look, nice charts on Instagram, right, little verticals and that. Shut the fuck up. That is not what life and business is about when you first start. Trust me. Take it from me. You started a business off £25,000 in debt, got it to a multi-million-pound business before I got wiped out. Wow. Through no fault of my own. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is what you need to recognise. As long as you're always learning that your biggest chance of success is this, your biggest chance of failure is this. Make certain that what you're watching, digesting, is what you need to be doing.
Brilliant. So, people then, what is your advice for those then, they don't want to start a business, but, they want to carry on working from home rather than going into the office. What should they be doing?
Recognise that, as Zulfaqar said, I think you're in danger zone here, and you might not think, well, it's not my problem. No, you've got one life, and since we started, you're now 40 minutes closer to death.
Wow.
Right? And it's one of those conversations that people don't want to have because death happens to everyone else. Oh, you only saw them last week. Yeah, he was going to go away next week. Listen, you are going to die at one point. So us, right? Oh, stop the press. So this is what you need to recognise, that on your dying breath, you're going to turn around and say, I'm so glad that I stayed at Butterworth Jones accountancy practice all my life in a miserable job that I wasn't happy with. This is your life. And what you do with it is down to you. Not down to you, dad locking you in a coal shed when you're 7. Not down to your employer, down to you. So if you're unhappy with your life right now, do something about it. If your employer wants you back in the office and you're not feeling it, look for another job. Simple. But what we do, we put so much credence on these decisions thinking they're massive, when actually they're not in the grand scheme of things. And once you start realising that, life's a lot easier.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. And okay, so those that are looking to start a business, obviously they need to know how difficult it really is. What would you say then, if they have to work on one skill before they jumped into business, what should they be focusing on at the very start? One thing.
When you think about that, I say it's difficult. Actually, somebody is going to a frigging job you don't enjoy day in, day out. That's difficult. Somebody's going to bed on Sunday night knowing that you've got to go and do a commute to a shit job that you're feeling with surrounded with people. That's difficult. When I started my business off, nobody gave me a chance. Bank manager laughed in my face. My wife didn't want me to start a business off. People told me it'd never work. And if they'd listened to those 3 people that were well-meaning, they'd have been wrong. So they'd have been right. So somewhere along the way, you've got to start talking yourself into things rather than out of. Start small. Get that book, get off your ass and read that book. And that is talking to you, and it will tell you everything that you need to know about self-doubt, depression, anxiety. The reality of it before, by the way, self-doubt, anxiety and depression was cool. I wrote that in 2007, right? So I'm not jumped on the bandwagon with all this. I wrote about it when it was the first generation. Can I just say something about anxiety and depression? I've never even frigging heard of it when I was a kid. Never heard of the word. I think I heard the word anxiety once. Up until about 23-year-old. I've never heard of it before. Nowadays, everyone's throwing it on like frigging confetti. Anxiety, depression, suicide. Come on. Let me tell you something. If somebody's going to commit suicide, you put a LinkedIn post on there isn't going to fix them. I promise you. Take it from me. You've met people who and it's a serious subject. And I think that we need to start looking at this and start being realistic about what this causes or what causes these things. But nowadays, it's a 6-second, TikTok video that what's going to save a life. No, it's not. No. It's about talking. It's about listening. Talking and listening, and I love that. So you've pulled yourself out. I know you say you never heard of these when you were younger, but you've pulled yourself out of depression and whatnot. Was it just a mindset thing, or was it practical steps, or both? Like what was it for you specifically? Several things. In that, the reason that I was 3.5 stone heavier, and the reason I was 3.5 stone heavier is because I've been brought up in the 70s, microwave meals, pot noodles, bird's eye potato waffles, all that sort of stuff. And, eat as much as you can and as tasty as you can, as cheap as you can. That's what I brought up with. And I did 4 years on benefits before I started a business. So as I started making my business and it started working, I'm still in the mindset, which is, I might not eat tomorrow. So now I'm gorging. So my business was business networking meetings. So I'm having breakfast on expenses. And I could eat, like the Bash Street kids with frigging, full English breakfast. Amazing. And then I'm having lunchtime meetings, having business meetings, and the evening drunk and celebrating. And I got myself in this wrapped up mess. So short term, again, see what I said, did it come back? Short term, everything was amazing. Medium and long term, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, problems, and That's what goes on in life. And I'm going to share something with you. When we moved in this house, we've got a 5-bedroom house in Somerset. I wanted a 10-bedroom mansion. 10-bedroom mansion.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a 5-bedroom house with one room that I never go in. Imagine if I'd have worked really hard and got my dream of a 10-bedroom mansion. I have 6 fucking rooms I don't go in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I bought this house, in each of the corners of the of the front room, there was a spider. And I said to the wife, I said, there's a spider in Somerset, in Salford, spider in each of the corners. Do you want me to get them out? She went, I don't mind small spiders. I said, where do you think the big ones come from, honey? And what we have in our life is we've got small spiders that we don't mind. And those small spiders start becoming big ones. So your trousers might go from 32 to 34, start getting a bit tighter there. You might be drinking alcohol at night when you used to have a little top. Now you're having half a bottle of brandy. These problems, you get a bit angry with the kids. These problems are small spiders, and you need to deal with them. So when I got over my depression, I dealt with every small spider that was in my life. So any problem that comes my way right now, I'm good to go with it. Now, that doesn't mean that my life's problem-free, because it isn't. I've been under no illusions, and that's the other thing. I could myth it off here. You kids are born, problem-free life. Bullshit. Everyone has problems, but it's what you do and how you deal with them. Pebbles in shoes don't magic the way out. Pebbles in shoes do not magic the way out. If you've got a pebble in your shoe right now, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. So that is how I dealt with my depression. Recognizing what was making me depressed, feeling lethargic, staying in bed all day. Why? Because I felt unworthy, that I couldn't start a business and I couldn't work. So, right, okay, what's the process of that? And that's how I managed to get it. And recognizing that if I do feel down, that it's okay, because you're human, right? Beyond the stage presence and the 60-minute stage show, I'm human. And I think that that's the bit that people need to recognize, that you're human, not the Instagram version of yourself. You're human.
Brilliant. Once again, I absolutely love that. So, the key takeaway there for me, is, you mentioned it earlier, life is a process. There's ups and there's downs. Now, some people might think that if you reach a certain, like I did, if you reach a certain stage or a certain qualification or a certain position, or you hit a certain financial goal, you've made it, and everything, becomes perfect. But it doesn't, because once you hit it, you realize, for example, when I qualified as a lawyer, like I thought I've made it, went back into the, first day of work, and it's like, nothing's changed. I'm still miserable as shit.
So,
it's like, yeah, go ahead.
I wrote that book, that one, Now What? And I was 42, so 8 years ago. And I'd reached every single goal in my life, every single financial goal, every single goal I'd ever set out to achieve. I did. And then I wrote the book, Now What? Because it was boring. 3 months in, having gone to the gym and played my PlayStation game, it was boring. Now what? We strive for a challenge. And this is the problem, is that there's several things going on here with society, and where people go wrong is how much is enough? Enough money, enough sex, enough love, enough whatever, enough time. But what we end up doing is it's never enough for people. So, Grant Cardone, you can 10x your business. Well, why, Grant, when you can 11x your business, you clown? Where does it end? Where does it end?
Yes.
And actually, this is the problem, is that we can't all be Elon Musk. And that's the problem, is that what ends up, Elon Musk, Mars, could go to Saturn, dickhead. I did on social media. Someone saying to me, "Oh, Brad, you've got self-limiting beliefs. Tony Robbins has got 300 million. I couldn't give a fuck what Tony Robbins has got. I'm not bothered. You know what? I am a working-class lad from Salford, Manchester, who lived in Masonette, who has a BMW i8, lives in a 5-bedroom house, got my own arcade machine. All these material things that actually are largely irrelevant. Let me be under no illusions. But the point I'm making is this is the barometer as to what people's judgment is. You could fly first class. I've got a perfectly good bed here. So, the way that I judge success, true success, is how happy and content an individual is.
Brilliant.
Happy and content, not how big your bank balance is. Because I've got mates of mine that have got millions and millions of squids, and they are not happy. They're not content. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I said to them, how happy and content are you? 4. So you've got like 20, 30, 40 times more money than me, and you're a 4 out of 10, yeah? Okay. And yet I'm on average, my kind of median is around 8 in terms of happy and content on a daily basis. So I say this, that the whole thing is what we need to do is we need to avoid success, and we need to get success, whatever success is.
So it's a daily grind. It's a daily process. It's not like, you reach a certain level and I'm happy now. It's what you do, the habits you do every day, how you feed your mind every day and what you put output every day. And, I'm conscious of the time. So, you're 13 years older than me, although I look older than you. And I don't know if that's a compliment to you or a criticism.
No, mate, you got the hair, so you're looking good.
So it's like, obviously you're in great shape. How important then is, health and fitness, not just for business, but for self-esteem in your whole life? How does it fit in?
Let me show you something. That picture is me having a nervous breakdown.
Right.
That's me 3 stone heavier.
Yeah. And
my chairman saying to me, "Do you trust me?" And me saying, "Yes." He says, "Well, you ain't quitting." That was in 2012. I realised something. 3 stone heavier, type 2 diabetes. I've got type 2 diabetes now. The doctor said to me, "Oh, you're borderline type 2 diabetic."
Wow. Okay.
What happens to fat people? You are fat, Mr. Bird. 6 months later, you got type 2 diabetes. Brilliant, Brad. Well done. All because I like Jaffa cakes. And this is the thing in our lives, is that health is so important. And the very time when you realise how important health is when you're about to lose it. Same goes for time. Same goes for, we take everything for granted. And I'll give you an example for your audience to understand. No matter what problems and challenges you face right now, if I was to go and give you £1 million cash, your problems and challenges would probably fall away. However, as part of that £1 million cash, you won't be living beyond 24 hours. Would you accept the money? No. So what does that say? It says that today is worth £1 million. So why aren't you acting like a lottery winner? Because you're taking today for granted. You're taking tomorrow for granted. You're taking your family for granted, your friends for granted, your health for granted, your hair for granted. You're taking everything for granted. I used to have hair. I don't have it anymore. But I could say, what I need to do is go to Greece and go and get one of these transplant. What on earth? It's gone. And this is what we need to do in life. When it's gone, it is gone. You need to accept that.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Love it. So, you mentioned at the top of the episode, so before we finish up, what is the difference then between a motivational business speaker and a motivational speaker? Because you're both to me. So
yeah. Let me explain. So people say to me, "Brad, how did you become the UK's #1 motivational business speaker?" I just made a fucking website and said I'm the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. That term, motivational business speaker, did not exist until I made it up.
Right.
So by me doing that, and then what happened is as I did that, everyone's kicking off on LinkedIn. Brad Burton's not the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. Well, who is? Well, it's not him. Okay, well, who is? Because that term never existed until I made it up. It's a bit like you and I being in a nightclub and saying, "Hey, Z, what's that? 20 quid there on the floor, pick it up, mate." And you go, "Oh, you pick it up. You saw it. No, you pick it up. You're nearer." And whilst we're arguing the toss, somebody comes along, picks the 20 quid up, and now we're now spending the time arguing about, who saw it. So that is why I'm religious about the UK's #1. There's no league tables as regards bringing motivational speakers. But I asked a question when I go back, when I first started this game, I was just a motivational speaker. I never said the UK's #1. I just did the motivational speaker. And then when I realised, I thought, right, I was asking people on my travels, I said, "Who's the UK's #1 motivational business speaker?" And people were like, just give me different names. I thought, right, there we go. Those slippers I'll have. And that's exactly why I did it. And, and it's funny because when I come out on stage, and I do speak at the highest level, JCB, Bentley, Costa, Zero, the list goes on. But when I come out, it's the first thing I say. People say to me, "How did you become a UK's #1 motivational business speaker?" I just made a website. And the first person you've got to convince of your brilliance is you. And that is exactly what I've done.
Brilliant. So I was going to, the follow-up question for that was, were you the UK's #1 business motivational speaker before you actually became it?
No. And the same way that Muhammad Ali wasn't the greatest of all time until he started telling everyone who he was. You're looking at it, he got beat 5 times, yet he's the greatest. Floyd Mayweather never got beat. If he goes on telly and says, "I'm the greatest," everyone's saying, "No, you're not." "Yeah, but I've never been beat." "Yeah, you're not though, mate." "Why is that?" "Because Muhammad Ali is." "Yeah, but he got beat." But it's not just about that, is it? Because what he did for civil rights, Bosh. That is the space that I've occupied, and it's a great tip for anyone. The problem that I've got now is everyone started copying it. You look on LinkedIn, everyone's the #1. And I was the pioneer. I started that, and everything I've done, I've been a pioneer. I promised when I started in this whole networking space that I was going to change the networking space forever, and that's exactly what I've done. I've changed the landscape in the UK. When I first started, it was 3-piece suits, pocket watches, and top hats. Since I came on the scene, I've got it all T-shirts, jeans, and people just being themselves. I changed the networking scene. I changed the motivational scene. I changed the business book scene. And actually what I do next, I'm not sure. But what I do know is that, whatever happens, it's happened for a reason. Everything. Because if you think about the worst day of my life back in 1995, January the 2nd, if I'd not had the worst day of my life, 2 bullets put through my window, I would never have moved away. I would never have started a business. I would never be here right now. So everything happens for a reason. And sometimes it just takes 20 years before it all makes sense.
Lovely. Honestly, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find more about you, and how can you help them, whether they're individual or business?
Bradburton.biz. Bradburton.biz. Everything that you need in order to connect with me and to work with me, whether it's speaking, keynotes, coming into your place of work, training you to become a professional speaker, or indeed Life Maker, which is how I changed my mindset. I've got something here. I'll just show it briefly. This is my Life Maker book, my workbook for my 10-week course. And I've done something. I'm a big computer game fan. This is how I live my life. This process is how I live my life. And by teaching people this process, you can almost gamify every single day of your life, so you can see what you need. And it's just, it's a very clever system. Lifemaker.me if you're interested in that.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. I will drop the links to those websites in the description below. So as we finish up, Brad, any last words to help people fight their Minotaurs?
Yeah, just to recognise that, if you've got yourself in a maze, you can get yourself back out. And that's, I got myself in a mental maze in the past. And actually what you need to do is you need to if it took you 40 years to get there, guess what? If it's going to take you 4 years to get out, that's okay.
Brilliant. Well, once again, thank you very much. As for the viewer, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care now. Bye-bye.